I'm confident that anyone watching this is very familiar with TDX's appeal. If you somehow don't know, it's the cool aesthetics and intense fights. But you wouldn't really know that unless you've seen gameplay on YouTube or maybe have played through the frankly boring early game, which is what I have a problem with. TDX has always advertised itself as being different, only in TDX, as John says. But most of those mechanics are towards the late game. The beginning of the game is pretty much an average Roblox tower defense game. Most new players that don't care enough to look up TDX anywhere else wouldn't see the hype at all. That's why TDX's introduction needs to be changed. One of the main problems that caused this is both easy and intermediate mode. The beginning of the game is usually where you want to establish what the game is about, which is done decently for TDX because of the tutorial mode. However, it immediately drops the ball with easy mode. Easy mode is mostly just the average Roblox tower defense mode, since it doesn't really have any of the mechanics that make TDX special. You could argue this is to make it friendlier for new players, but in my opinion, you're just setting the wrong expectation for the game. I'm not saying they should make it harder, but they should have some enemies that showcase TDX's quote-unquote unique mechanics so that they can immediately differentiate themselves from the other Roblox TDs. Believe it or not, I actually want them to add enemies that can kill towers in easy mode. Tower killing is not what makes a mode hard, it's how you implement it. Every mode that has it has always just been mass wipeouts, with intermediate mode being the only exception. But what if it was implemented in a way that would be manageable for someone learning the game? I'll cut straight to the issue, since I already made a video about this. It's because tower damage is always forced to be high because of late game towers and the fast passive heal. Since late game towers aren't a concern for the early game, toning down the passive heal for just easy mode at least, kinda like what this guy said, would allow for a slower approach to tower death that keeps the looming threat of losing your towers while still being manageable if the enemies deal low damage constantly. You could have enemies coming out like the X-Soldiers for example, every few waves, and having to bait their attack so that your rangers could avoid or heal back damage from past waves. If that's too much, then you could make the economy a bit more generous since it's just easy mode. Intermediate mode already kinda had this when the game first released because passive heals weren't a thing, so you could apply what I said about easy to intermediate. The approach they had with the Elite rework really made me think they might be missing the point of what made their game special. I know the massive hordes is just them flexing their optimization, but without the tower damage being an actual threat, it doesn't really feel that special. The other main issue that contributes to the weak introduction is having boring towers at the start. If you look at the towers that you can actually buy while you're still grinding easy and intermediate, they're pretty simple, with the only one that has anything interesting about it being the Jet Trooper, which they added recently. It's the only one that I could really say is a unique TDX tower with full confidence that can be obtained relatively early on. There are only a select few functionally interesting towers at this stage of the game. I'm not really sure how you would fix this, since reworking every old tower would be a tough call to make since redoing stuff they've already made instead of working on anticipated features would take up a lot of time, but I hope they find the time to do so in the future, since I'm pretty sure John has said he wanted to add abilities for the old towers before in one of his streams. The last issue are the medal. John has already said that this is pretty generous, but it doesn't encourage you to play on other maps as much in the early game, because new players would probably have a harder time doing something like intermediate on a new map rather than just grinding the same one over and over. My suggestion is to buff the medal rewards for easy and intermediate even just a little bit to make up for the trial and error that they have to go through. Something like 120% for easy and 100% for intermediate. I did some rough calculations. If these values were applied, it would take just over 2 hours of playing intermediate on different hard maps or easy in different impossible maps, which is impossible since there's only like 4 impossible maps, to obtain the loadout that John showed in his Elite rework video minus barracks because he doesn't end up using it. While over 13k in 2 hours might seem too good, please keep in mind that this is doing intermediate on hard maps and easy on impossible maps, which is pretty difficult to obtain without the loadout you're grinding for in the first place. So any new players trying to do that would probably die and lose progress at some point, so I think it would be fair. TDX is really struggling to get players to play the game, right? Adding new content like the massive upcoming Nightmare update is really cool, but let's not forget the start of the game. A better first impression sets the right expectation and motivates the player to stick with the game and maybe even buy some stuff with Robux along the way. Ahem ahem. That's all I have to say. Like and sub if you want to support my channel. Bye.